The next presentation will be mine, since my colleague was not able to come. I will talk about assessment of risk connected to the dams and flood protection measures or infrastructure in Slovenia. Whoops, too quick. So the construction of dams has been an issue from ancient times, and it has been beneficial to mankind. So it is still now that people use dams as flood protective measures, as well as for other purposes such as hydropower production, irrigation, water supply, and so on. So the experts agree that well-designed, built, maintained, and operated dam exhibit a quasi-zero rate of failure. However, we cannot. There is no zero risk with dams. If we make an overview of the history of failure of dams, we see that on average, less than one dam out of 10,000 large dam fails. But no matter how small the likelihood of failure is, when these failures come, it can cause extensive damage and, in worst cases, fatalities as well. Therefore, we justifiably speak about them as of critical infrastructure. So when we speak about dams for flood protection, dikes and levees, the main concern is the potential danger represented by the large amount of water which is stored behind the structures. The other point that is associated also with this structure is when such dams are built, they give a false sense of complete safety, which results in construction of settlements next to these structures. And the risk is even higher, or the damage that can be caused is even higher. So experts around the world put a lot of effort to improve the dam safety, and now mostly they don't even think only about structural safety and they don't use this deterministic approach and rather go to this risk approach. So now I will talk about the Vodbrek project, which was a step financed by Ministry of Defense, which financed the project in which we reviewed the condition of Slovenian dams. Briefly, the Vodbrek project was consisted of identification of all the dams that were possible threats, survey of condition of these dams, review of dam break analysis, both of requirement remediation measures and emergency action plans, and rise of population awareness. When making this overview, we found that maybe due to lack of finance, the more critical were water management dams, since the hydropower dams for hydropower productions were, well, let's say, more finances are available for these dams for monitoring and maintenance. The key findings that influenced the most the risk classification of these dams were that there was the documentation on water management dams was missing in many times. It was scattered, and the second was that monitoring wasn't carried out as it should be, due also to limited scale of finances, and also the data that were achieved and gained with this monitoring was not reliable enough to make a proper risk assessment. So therefore we had to put all the dams that were analyzed on the same level, and we developed qualitative assessment with which we cannot say that we were evaluating risk as according to the definition, but when choosing the parameters, also the risk and the potential, the damage potential was included. So we could say that we were evaluating some hazard risk, something in the middle. So we divided the parameters in 5 groups. The basic parameters of dams, which included the height and storage and capacity, storage capacity, discharge, and so on. Then the documentation availability, including the operational documentation, the designs, and monitoring documentation, and so on. Then we analyzed the operating parameters and operating hazard, and to conclude, we analyzed, we made a field review, and we analyzed the state of structures and equipment of the dams. So what we did was, according to significance of each parameter, we graded it into 3 levels. Unfortunately, we could not exclude the subjectivity of this assessment. It has been performed by experts, but it gave quite a good result. Finally, all these parameters were gathered together, and 5 classes risk assessment, or 5 categories risk assessment was established. The state of the dams wasn't really nice. Many of the dams were falling into the high level risk or high level or considerable level risk, and only few dams were low risk. After this project, the university performed a sensitivity analysis on how simple measures can reduce the risk, and as it was quite logical, very small reduction could be done in the basic parameters. There we would need some constructive measures, while in the other cases of, for example, alarming or documentation, more could be done. This is how the results were evaluated at the end. As I promised, I will talk also about a case. It is a dam in Vipava Valley. It is the largest water management dam for the purpose of irrigation and flood management. Here I can present how the dam was in 2007. It was discovered a leakage under the dam, and some measures were taken from then. Unfortunately, the finances weren't found to make the complete refurbishment, but just a few works which stopped the leakage for now were performed in 2011 and 2012 and 2013. Below, unfortunately, the table is in Slovene, but below there is how the dam was assessed in the Vodprek project, and how in the upper table there are the results after the performance of after this leakage was discovered and after the performance of these intermediate measures. Now, if we are going through all the categories, you can see that in basic parameters and documentation availability, it couldn't have been done a lot. Maybe less than it could be, especially in design documentation, which is scattered, and not even it was dispersed during the change of the owner of the dam. While in the other parameters, operating parameters and risk arising from the operation of the dam, with small measures we could achieve some, let's say, improvements, or we can see where more effort should be put into. What I would like to, I will just come to the conclusion. The classification was developed for the water management dams. Later, with the sensitivity analysis and some more works, it has been let's say, modified for the flood protection measures and infrastructures. However, it is not suitable for the dams for the hydropower production, because the results are not as they don't represent the real state of the dams as they represent it for the water management. The good thing of the analysis is it is quite simple, but it has to be done by the experts, not by the people who don't work normally with the dams. And that's the dam. The accumulation. So, thank you.